Welcome to Terra Talks, where we talk about all things real estate. In each episode, we'll tackle current trends and topics of interest, both locally and regionally. However or wherever you decide to tune in, you're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome back to Terra Talks. My name is Jessica Gittins, and I'm here with my colleague, Rosey McCartney.
Hello.
Today, we're diving into the great housing debate of renting versus buying. It's a decision that many of us have to face at some point in our lives, and today we'll explore the pros and cons of each option. Whether you're a first-time renter or a potential homebuyer or somewhere in between, this episode will help you make an informed choice. I think we have a great episode in store for you today, so without further ado, Rosey, take it away.
All right. So, renting versus buying is probably one of the most controversial topics in real estate. It's, if you have a psychology background, it's like nature versus nurture. There's no winning there. But this podcast really is not it's not black and white. It's not me telling you have to rent or you have to buy. It is just us giving you our opinion, and whatever resonates with you, go with it. And if you have any points that you wanted to bring to us at the end of this, we are all ears because we just love this topic so much. So we're just going to dive straight into it. And Jessica's going to start off talking about the financial considerations you should take into consideration when you're thinking about renting versus buying.
We're going to focus on the financial considerations when it comes to renting. And the first one we'll look at is the lower upfront cost when you compare renting to buying. When in Barbados, as a standard, renting typically requires a security deposit, the first month's rent and the last month's rent when you're starting out. If you're renting a furnished place, furnishings will already be in. And if you're not, you'll have to look at purchasing furniture and appliances. But those lower upfront costs do make it more affordable for those with limited savings. The next financial consideration when you're looking at renting is that the monthly expenses are predictable. So when you're renting, you have your fixed monthly rent, and that kind of helps simplify budgeting. Most in Barbados, you mostly have to pay for utilities on top of the rent. But again, you can kind of bank for those to be within a certain range. So when you compare that to owning a home, your monthly expenses can be unpredictable because you have to take home maintenance into consideration. And then final financial consideration when you're comparing renting versus buying and focus on renting is that there's no property taxes or major maintenance costs. Renters are generally not responsible for property taxes or the costs of major maintenance and repairs, which can save significant money in the short term. Rosey?
So over to buying. So one of the main things you want to think about is building equity. So basically, when you own a home, it allows you to build equity over time, and you potentially increase your net worth as property values appreciate. The second thing that we dive into is tax benefits. So homeowners can often deduct mortgage interest and property taxes on their annual tax returns, providing potential tax savings. And then finally, the long-term investment. So real estate has historically been a sound long-term investment, offering the potential for wealth accumulation and stability. And just for like a real life reference, if you think about, we talk about in the office quite often, appreciation over like 30 years. So like there's this one neighborhood in Holetown, and I was speaking to one of the owners a while ago, and they told me that they bought their property for 125,000 Barbados dollars. We just sold a very dated home in that same neighborhood for that needs complete gutting. It's going to be great when it's done, but we just sold that same type of property for just over $700,000. So I'll just leave that with you, just to think about.
All right. Moving on to the next segment that we're going to talk about with renting versus buying is the lifestyle considerations. And with a focus on renting, you have a bit more flexibility and mobility when you're renting. Renting provides the freedom to move more easily, which is advantageous for individuals with changing job locations or uncertain future plans, or just simply if you haven't quite decided where you want to invest, where you want to, spend that significant money and maybe live for the long term, because obviously if you own, you can also sell. The next lifestyle consideration would be the reduced responsibility that renters have. Renters are generally not responsible for major repairs or property upkeep, so it allows for a more hassle-free living experience. And just to give you some insight, when you're renting, you're usually responsible for minor maintenance up to a certain dollar value per incident. And then there's usually an annual cap as well. So once you've spent a certain amount, all maintenance then goes to the landlord's responsibility. So it's easier when you're renting from that point of view. Also, when you're renting, there's access to amenities. Many rental properties offer amenities like pools, gyms, community spaces, tennis courts. And when you're a homeowner, you might not have access to those amenities or be able to afford them. When you're renting, this can be very advantageous.
When you buy a property, you have stability and control. So owning a home can provide a sense of stability and control over your living situation and allows you to make changes and renovations you see fit. I mean, there's so many times when I speak to tenants and they're like, I love my home, but I would gut the kitchen, I would gut the bathroom, I would, take down this wall, all of those things that you are restricted to do as a tenant, you have the ability to do it as a homeowner. Obviously, it does come with an expense, but it's yours and you have the ability to do it at your own pace. There's also the pride of ownership. So that, like what I just said about being able to renovate your property and make it look the way you want your home to look, like there's a certain pride in that. So home ownership often brings a sense of pride and accomplishment as you have it's a place that you call your own and the freedom to personalize it. And then one of the great benefits of buying a property is the community involvement. So when you buy a home, you're very much involved as a part of the community. You're able to build long-lasting relationships with neighbors. Your kids have long-lasting friendships that will go off for over the years. And then also if you're in one of those gated communities or in a community that has a very involved homeowners association, you can be involved in making changes that can benefit the community. And that again brings you a pride of ownership. So some market considerations we want to talk about as well when it comes to renting versus buying. Jessica, talk to me.
Are you guys confused yet? Feeling conflicted? Probably. So this is the last segment that we're going to consider. And from a renting point of view, renting gives you flexibility in the market. So what this means is that it allows you to wait and observe before making a long-term commitment. Just as an aside, when you're observing the market conditions, we at Terra have great market reports and data available to arm you with all the information you need to make that decision. And finally, renting permits you to avoid market risks. And this means that renters are not directly exposed to property market fluctuations, reducing the risk of potential financial losses.
So over to buying. So the potential appreciations, we spoke about that earlier. So real estate values have historically appreciated over time. And buying a home can provide you with a valuable asset that may increase in value. And then when you look at fixed housing costs, and I think that's the main discussion, point that you can discuss when it's renting versus buying is what's the dollar value on it, right? So with a fixed rate mortgage, which most banks offer here, you can get a fixed interest rate for let's say call it 5 years. You know that your mortgage is not going to increase for the next 5 years, and that gives you comfort in budgeting. And I know some people are not comfortable doing that, but you have to do it when you're adulting. So with a fixed rate mortgage, homeowners have more control over their housing expenses compared to renters who may face rising rental prices. And I will say, we have seen with our market reports that Jessica just referenced, rental prices have gone up since, I would say, 2020.
Yeah, the rental market it's crazy right now.
So, and you would see that and if you look at our website, look at any website, you'd see that the availability of homes that are priced at anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000. There's a very tight market for that. And when they do come up, they get snatched up very quickly.
So renting and buying both have their advantages and disadvantages. It really does just come down to your personal circumstances, your financial goals, and your lifestyle preferences. Considering factors like your financial stability, your long-term plans, and the current real estate market before making a decision.
Anyway, guys, just remember there's no one-size-fits-all in the renting versus buying debate. As always, it's essential to seek professional advice and weigh the pros and cons out before making a choice that aligns with your unique situation. I would advise you talk to us, you speak to the banks, you speak to any financial advisors. You just really need to look at the big picture before you make such a big decision, because buying a property is going to be one of the largest investments you make in your life and one of the largest decisions you make in your life as well.
Thanks for listening today. I hope this information was useful. Stay tuned for our next podcast, where we will have a chat with Kimberly Justine Lewis, who is a senior associate at Clark Gittins Farmer and a expert conveyancing attorney. We're planning to talk to her about the sales process from a legal point of view. Thank you so much for tuning into Terra Talks. If you'd like to connect with us, Rosey, can you share your Instagram handle, please?
It's very difficult. Rosey McCartney.
And mine is Selling Barbados. If you have any suggestions for our upcoming podcast or something that you'd like us to talk about, or if you have a question about that neighborhood that Rosey was talking about that has appreciated in value significantly, feel free to reach out to either of us or anyone from our awesome team at Terra Caribbean and Terra Luxury. And happy house hunting.